No freaking way, guys. Kevin O'Leary, he said it, and they all laughed. CNN rolled their eyes. Wall Street called it chicken. The courts tried to shut it down. But now, President Trump's 50% tariff just hit like a freight train, and it's crushing everything in its path. Steel surging. China backed into a corner. The courts slapped down by a national emergency clause. And Kevin O'Leary, he didn't just see it coming. He actually called the end game. So today I want to share with you guys exactly how President Trump just turned a court defeat into a global dominance without even lifting a pen. The $22 billion tariff jackpot that's funding your tax cuts. China, made in 2025, their dream just got shattered in a single move. And why Kevin O'Leary is now saying that we're headed into a 10% global tariff baseline that could change trade forever. Plus, of course, how President Trump's moves just exposed Biden's autopilot presidency, put Iran on edge, and triggered new nuclear talks in the Middle East. Guys, this isn't just tariffs. This is war by other means. Now, President Trump's 50% move just changed the game. Now, stick with me because it gets even wilder the deeper we go. So I want to go ahead and start with the move that nobody saw coming, but Kevin O'Leary, he nailed it to the wall. Just 4 months into his second term, President Trump didn't just back down or bring back the steel tariffs that Joe Biden tried to water down. He doubled them. That's right. He went from 25% to 50% across the board on foreign steel. This is a move that was so bold. It was so unapologetically America first, the globalists couldn't even finish their cappuccinos before the panic set it. Guys, that quote right there, no one's getting over that fence now. That wasn't just political theater. That was a shot fired directly at Beijing, Brussels, and Tokyo. So you guys remember under Joe Biden, the steel tariffs were practically non-existent, right? Japan, duty-free access, EU, backroom carve-outs. The American steelworker left out in the cold again. But Trump walks back in, and the first thing he does, reinstates the full 25% tariff, then doubles it just months later. That's leverage. That is America first. And let me tell you who's not crying about it. U.S. steelworkers sure aren't, who for the first time in decades are actually watching their industry roar back to life. And this wasn't just a symbolic flex. It actually had teeth. So I want to talk numbers. By the way, if you guys appreciate the daily news updates, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate your support, guys. Last month alone, the Trump administration hit a $22 billion annual run rate in tariff revenue. Let me say that again. $22 billion. That's not pocket change. That's the leverage. That's leverage money, guys. That's fund the tax cuts kind of money. You know what I'm saying? Larry Kudlow, he's already talking about using that windfall to slash tax brackets and give the middle class the relief that they've been begging for. This isn't tax and spend. This is tariff and slay. And guess who predicted that exact outcome? Kevin O'Leary said Trump was playing the long game. He said the 25% move was just phase one. And now with 50% tariffs on the board, we're entering phase two of the Trump trade doctrine. But what happens next is even wilder. Kevin O'Leary, he didn't just get the tariff escalation right. He predicted how the markets would react, how China would be cornered, and how a new global tariff standard is forming, whether the courts like it or not. And yes, of course, we're about to break down the court case, the emergency clause, and how Trump just flipped the judges on their freaking heads. But first, of course, we need to talk about how Kevin O'Leary, how did Kevin O'Leary even know that this was going to be happening all along? And how is Trump still holding the cards even after the legal attack? Now, if you appreciate and support Trump's plan to make America first again, drop a quick 47 in the comments down below and show your support. We really appreciate you guys. Now, you might be feeling like your Medicare plan is draining your wallet. And if you do, you're not alone. Leslie Taylor, she felt like she was in the same spot until she called Chapter. Now she's saving $1,000 a year. Sharon Bertusik, she lost her Medicaid coverage altogether, but Chapter stepped in, got her a new plan with no premium, no medication costs, and a copay that got dropped from $89 to $20. This is huge. Chapter's advisors do not work for the insurance companies, they work for us. Give our friends at Chapter a call right now and see how much money you can save. Their number is 909-563-8279, or better yet, hit them up on their website 24 hours a day at askchapter.org/Ron. Save more money, stress a whole lot less. Guys, let's talk about the man who called it from the get-go. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Shark Tank, right? He went on national television and blew the lid off the lie that President Trump's tariff strategy was over. When the judges tried to shut down Trump's reciprocal tariffs, the media danced on the grave, calling it a loss of leverage. But Kevin said, not even close. Kevin O'Leary, he laid out 3 brutal truths that not only are being proven right, but number 1, the tariff war was never just about the shock and awe of slapping 145% tariffs on China overnight. That was just the opener. Now it's surgical, strategic, it's persistent. Number 2, Trump has an entire arsenal of trade tools, not just the IEEPA. I want you to think Section 232, 301, auto tariffs, semiconductors, pharma, COPPA. I mean, all still locked, loaded, and fully legal. Number 3, the end game, a global 10% tariff standard. That's the new normal that Trump's gunning for. One where every country knows, mess with U.S. trade, oh, you gonna pay. Kevin O'Leary literally said, what's the end game? Well, folks, this is it. Trump isn't just slapping tariffs. He's re-engineering the global economy. And for anybody who's out there thinking that the court ruling ended things, take a look at the markets. Have you seen the markets, guys? When the trade court blocked the reciprocal tariff under IEEPA, stocks popped. And then reality set in. The rally fizzled. Every major index sank. But why? Because the markets realized what Kevin O'Leary already knew. Trump still holds the cards. That's right. The entire legal backbone behind Trump's 2018-2019 tariffs is still intact. Steel, autos, semis, all covered. Even Wall Street insiders are now admitting President Trump's moves are here to stay. And they're already pricing in a permanent 10% tariff baseline across the global trade. But here's where it gets dangerous. Trump's tariff triumph didn't just shake the markets, it cornered Beijing. And what happens when a hostile superpower can't export, can't stimulate, and can't survive without U.S. markets? Desperation, aggression. And according to Gordon Chang, we may be inches away from a real confrontation in Taiwan, Korea, South Korea, and even Australia. Now, stick with me because I want to show you guys how President Trump's tariffs just crushed China's 2025 dream, how other countries are now joining the blockade, and how this could turn into a military showdown. Now, all right, guys, I want to talk to you about China because this is the part they didn't want you to see. President Trump didn't just level up his steel tariffs. He didn't just call out the judges. He cut straight to the heart of China's master plan. Now, for years, Xi Jinping has bet everything on Made in China 2025, right? A plan to dominate global industries like semiconductors, EVs, AI, artificial intelligence, you name it. But here's the problem. Xi still refuses to build an economy based on internal consumption. He wants to export his way to global domination. And guess what happens when President Trump slaps 50% tariffs on the lifeline that fuels China's growth? Boom, you break the model. And they are following suit. From the EU to South Korea, from Australia to Canada, nations are now watching Trump and they're saying, why are we letting China dump cheap steel and kill our industries? Well, it's working. Global resistance is growing. Imports are being blocked. Factories are coming home. Trump didn't just push America first. He sparked a worldwide backlash against the Chinese trade scam that's gutted middle-class economies for over 20 years. Here's where this gets even scary, though. You got Gordon Chang. He didn't just talk about economics. He issued a warning. When China can't export, when their economy starts to crumble, when Xi Jinping back ends up getting pinned against the wall, what happens next? China starts lashing out. I mean, we've already seen warships off the coast of Australia. The U.S. just deployed missile systems to the Philippines. Marines are rotating through Japanese islands with anti-ship launchers, ready to respond at a moment's notice. This isn't a trade dispute anymore. This is pre-conflict maneuvering. President Trump's economic plan is clearly working, but it's driving Beijing into a corner. And when superpowers feel like they're out of options, they act. Now, of course, I want to show you guys that this fight isn't over. In fact, the fight's getting even hotter because the courts tried to take Trump's power away, but now he's fighting back. And he's not just using legal briefs, he's invoking the fentanyl crisis, the national emergency clause, and his full executive arsenal. Just when President Trump's tariff momentum was peaking, the court struck. There was a federal trade court that ruled that President Trump's reciprocal tariffs, the ones aimed directly at punishing countries that slap us with unfair trade duties, were unconstitutional under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or the IEEPA. That's right, guys. They claimed it wasn't a real emergency, that President Trump couldn't use national security powers to protect American steel. Sound familiar? These were unelected judges, many appointed decades ago, telling the commander-in-chief how to respond to a global economic war. And this wasn't a small matter. These reciprocal tariffs were Trump's ace card, a way to punish any country that hits us with tariffs first. Hit us with 20%? Oh, we'll just go ahead and hit you back with 40. But the court called it too aggressive, said the economic emergency didn't qualify, which begs the question, if a flood of deadly fentanyl killing more Americans than the Vietnam War isn't an emergency, then what the hell is, right? Drop a 47 if you support Trump, or drop a 46 if you support these unelected judges. Now, White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett laid it out crystal clear. Fentanyl, most of it came from China. It's killed more Americans than we lost in combat in Vietnam. That crisis is real. And it's exactly what President Trump is now citing in his appeal to restore his full tariff power. The message from Trump's legal team, it's not for unelected judges to decide how to address a national emergency. And they're right. Do you guys think judges should decide how we should address national emergencies? Is that their freaking job? Here's the kicker, guys. Even if the court ruling sticks, Trump still wins. Why? Because the blocked tariffs was tied only to IEEPA, but Section 301, still good. Section 232, still active. Steel, autos, aluminum, semiconductors, copper, even pharma, all still under Trump's authority. This ruling didn't strip Trump's power, it just made him shift lanes. And if we've learned anything from watching this man for like the last decade, you don't want Trump shifting lanes. That's when he gets even more dangerous to the establishment. And now, here's where it all connects. Because that $22 billion in tariff revenue that Trump is generating, it's not just hurting China. It's funding the big, beautiful bill, a tax revolution that could end taxes on Social Security, overtime, and more. And President Trump's approval ratings, they're blowing through the 50% ceiling, with working class support surging. Because we're about to break down exactly how this money is being weaponized to reshape the economy and the 2024, 2025, 2026 election. Guys, we've seen the tariff tsunami. We've watched the courts try and fail to stop it. But now, let's talk about the aftershock, shall we? Because this is not just a trade story, right? This is about economic power and a political strategy that's so precise that it rewrites the rules of these future elections. President Trump's already calling it the big, beautiful bill. This is a sweeping tax overhaul funded not by borrowing, but by the $22 billion that his tariffs are generating. And here's the kicker. It's not just about cutting taxes. It's about cutting specific taxes that hammer the working class every single paycheck. We're not talking no tax on Social Security for most retirees. Guys, we're talking eliminating tax for Social Security for most retirees, no tax on overtime for middle class workers, a $4,000 tax break for seniors on fixed income. And how is he funding it? With the same tax money or the same tariff money that the media said would destroy the economy. Oops, right? That's exactly what Trump is doing, turning globalist trade policy into economic jet fuel for Americans. And so here's where it gets real. The American people are noticing. Poll after poll is showing President Trump crack 50% approval, not just with Republicans, but across independents and even working class voters in battleground states. In fact, some of the same steelworkers who stood up on stage with Trump when he dropped the 50% tariff bombshell, they're saying, quote, he's done more for us than every president combined. Biden's coalition's fracturing, Trump's support with the union base, clearly it's climbing. The strategy is working. And remember this, these are not just polls. These are economic voters, the same group that flipped Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin in 2016, and he could do it again. So there's still one piece left. The biggest reason Kevin O'Leary was right, the reason Trump's strategy keeps working, despite media backlash, despite legal attacks, despite global panic, it is because Trump isn't just changing policy, he's rewriting the global system itself. Guys, I'm going to expose the 10% global tariff standard that's forming right now, how CEOs like Mary Barra and NVIDIA are scrambling to keep up, and how Trump's turning tariffs into a geopolitical superweapon. That's right, folks. Kevin O'Leary wasn't just predicting a blip. He saw the end game, a permanent shift in global trade. And folks, it's happening. It's happening. While the media hyperventilated over Trump's 50% steel tariffs, Kevin O'Leary said, watch the baseline, because what Trump is doing is forcing a new global normal where 10% tariffs are, where 10% tariffs on basic goods are no longer the exception, but they're the floor. They're the bottom. That's the basement. We don't go any less than 10% tariffs. Every nation now has to ask themselves, well, do we follow Trump's lead or lose our industry? From India to Brazil, leaders are quietly adopting protective tariffs, not to isolate, but to rebalance. It's not protectionism. It's actually economic self-defense. And guess who's already adapting? Big business. GM CEO Mary Barra admitted publicly, Trump's tariffs leveled the playing field for American auto. Over in tech, NVIDIA is now losing 40% market share in China after U.S. export restrictions. And that's by design. Trump's strategy, pull American innovation out of hostile markets and reward companies that are bringing manufacturing and R&D back home. Wall Street groaned, Main Street cheered. CEOs are finally realizing it's not just about quarterly earnings, it's about economic sovereignty. Guys, these tariffs aren't just policy anymore, they're leverage. Leverage in trade, leverage in peace deals, leverage in courtrooms, across negotiating tables, and even in the next election. President Trump, he turned a single tool, the tariff, into a multi-front superweapon. And Kevin O'Leary called it from the start. It's not just economic theory, not just a TV soundbite, but a long view that's now unfolding in real time, with global elites, corporate leaders, corporate CEOs, and world leaders finally catching on. But folks, do not blink, because while Trump changes the game, Biden's team, they're still trying to play it on autopilot. But of course, I want to dive into this whole auto pen scandal. Yes, executive orders signed off by staffers, not Biden himself. And then, of course, the developing chaos in Iran, protests in 130 cities, Trump's quiet nuclear breakthrough, and what it means for global stability. Folks, Trump is reshaping the world with tariffs. Biden's handlers they're trying to reshape America with a pen that he didn't even touch. You heard that right, guys. Multiple executive orders confirmed by insiders were signed off by staff. They were not signed off by Biden. This is called the auto pen loophole. A mechanical signature, no human hand required. One of those orders, mind you, a last-ditch effort to Trump-proof deregulation and energy policy without congressional approval. Now, if this is true, this isn't just shady. It's a constitutional crisis in slow motion. And it might explain why Biden's rarely seen and why staffers are scrambling behind the scenes. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, Iran is collapsing 130 cities, mass protests, young Iranians rejecting the regime outright. And here's a twist. Trump isn't even tweeting about it. Why? Because behind closed doors, he's applying a new kind of pressure. Leaked reports show new sanctions may be coming and fast. But this time, Trump's holding out for something big, a historic nuclear breakthrough that could split the Iranian regime wide open. But guess what? The same tariff leverage Trump used on China, he's now using on Iran's trade partners to starve the regime of cash. Now, this is more than steel tariffs. This is economic warfare, and it's winning. Kevin O'Leary, he predicted it. President Trump executed it, and now the world is feeling it. And if you thought that this was big, wait until you see what's next. Smash the like button, guys. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should we standardize tariff globally? Should Biden's auto pen orders be investigated or revoked? And more importantly, subscribe to the channel, stay ahead of the media lies, because this fight for truth, you're not alone, guys. We've only just begun. Appreciate you. We'll see you next time.